A man responsible for killing 2 students and a school caretaker on the streets of Nottingham, and then attempting to run over 3 pedestrians, has been sentenced. Valdo Calocane, age 32, will be detained in a high-security hospital following his sentencing at Nottingham Crown Court. The judge told Calocane it is likely he will never be released, so that he can receive treatment for paranoid schizophrenia, a mental illness that can be mitigated with treatment, but not cured. Judge Mr. Justice Turner added he was satisfied Calocane would not have committed his appalling crimes had he not been suffering from the illness. In the early hours of Tuesday, June 13, 2023, the city was shaken by a series of brutal attacks which left 3 people dead. University of Nottingham students Grace O'Malley Kumar and Barnaby Webber, both 19, were fatally stabbed in Ilkeston Road. They were walking home from an end-of-term party at Persim nightclub, and were around 200 meters from their student accommodation when the savage attack occurred.
Oh no.
Emergency, what's the emergency?
Yes, there's been a stabbing on Ilkeston Road. There's somebody lying in the street. I think they're dead. Oh, that was awful.
Whereabouts on Ilkeston Road, please?
Outside the Wilborn building, near the crossroads.
Just over an hour later, school caretaker Ian Coates, 65, was killed in a further knife attack in Magdala Road, where his white van was then stolen by Calocane. 3 people were then hit by the van, and were lucky to survive the impact. Calocane was located by police shortly after the attacks. He was tasered by armed police officers in Bentink Road and arrested and charged with 3 murders and 3 attempted murders. Calocane, of no fixed address, pleaded guilty to 3 counts of manslaughter by reason of diminished responsibility and 3 counts of attempted murder at Nottingham Crown Court. The Crown accepted his pleas after 4 psychiatric reports found Calocane suffered from paranoid schizophrenia and had a serious mental health episode at the time of the attacks. However, they said he would have understood the nature of his conduct, namely, killing his victims with a knife and running over 3 others in a van. Calocane had been sectioned under the Mental Health Act several times and released by mental health services before he went on to commit the attacks. The attacks unfolded over a period of about 90 minutes across several parts of the city. Calocane had traveled up from London on the train prior to the attacks at around 11:30 p.m. on June 12, before taking a tram to the Radford area. He had told his family by phone, "This is the last time I will talk to you." He spent several hours walking around the city before hiding in a pedestrian alleyway near Ilkeston Road, dressed in black with a rucksack containing 3 knives and a scaffolding pole. The prosecution said Calocane had clearly planned to hide and wait for potential victims, and this was designed for the maximum element of surprise. Just before 4 a.m., he emerged from the alleyway and repeatedly stabbed Barnaby and Grace in Ilkeston Road before calmly walking away from the scene. Officers were alerted by a 999 call made by a neighbor who heard screaming. Paramedics arrived within minutes, but due to the serious injuries sustained, were unable to save Barnaby and Grace. Approximately 1 hour later, Calocane was caught on CCTV trying to break into supported living accommodation in Mapperley Road, having walked there via Forest Recreation Ground. Footage shows Calocane trying to climb through a downstairs window before being pushed away by a resident. The defendant then walked to nearby Magdala Road, in the Mapperley Park area, where, at around 5:14 a.m., he killed Mr. Coates before taking his white van and heading towards the city center. He deliberately ran over a man in Milton Street before minutes later driving into a man and a woman at the junction of Upper Parliament Street and Market Street. The Milton Street victim sustained multiple injuries, including a fractured skull and bleed on the brain. The other 2 victims, who were on their way to work, also suffered injuries. The woman was treated for broken ribs, a broken toe, and a bruised spleen, while the man suffered wounds to his head and leg. All 3 were lucky to survive the attacks. Officers managed to track down the van and arrested Calocane in Bentinck Road at 5:35 a.m., 91 minutes after the first 999 call. The officers approached the van after it came to a stop, and armed officers tasered Calocane after he produced a knife. He was charged 3 days after his arrest. Calocane, who was a former Nottingham University student, knew none of the victims he attacked on the day. Calocane was sentenced at Nottingham Crown Court on January 25.